Welcome to Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated's Fortitude Speaks. Born from the theme Forward with Fortitude, this series is about what fortitude looks like in action. Fortitude Speaks. Greetings to my stars of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and to the many national and local community partners that may be tuning in. I am Elsie Cooke-Holmes, International President and Chair of the Board of Directors. We have convened here in Washington, D.C. for the 36th annual Delta Days in the nation's capital. As advocates, as change makers, and as champions for the issues that impact our communities the most. We have just concluded DD&C with a plenary session with members of Congress and asked the current Congressional Black Caucus leadership for a quick fireside chat. Today, we're joined by Chair of the CBC, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke from the 9th District in New York, a steadfast advocate for voting rights, technology equity, and economic justice, and certainly a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. We also have CBC First Vice Chair, Congressman Troy Carter from the 2nd District in Louisiana, a dedicated leader fighting for economic empowerment, climate justice, and healthcare access. Congressman Carter is one of our Crimson and Cream brothers. He's a proud member of Kappa Alpha Psi. And last but not least, CBC 2nd Vice Chair, Congresswoman Lucy McBath from the 6th District in Georgia, a passionate voice for gun violence prevention, maternal health, and education reform, and another proud member of Delta Sigma Theta. We are grateful for your leadership and for taking the time to engage with Delta Sigma Theta on the critical issues facing our communities. Congresswoman Clarke, we are very excited to be supporting you as the newly elected chair of the Congressional Black Caucus for the 119th Congress. You also join the legacy of Delta Sigma Theta members serving as chairwoman of the CBC, and your leadership could not be coming at a more critical time. To kick us off, tell us a little bit about what it means to you to be a chairwoman of the CBC at such a time as this.
Well, SOAR President Elsie Cooke-Holmes, thank you so much for inviting me to participate and to share just a little insight into what's happening in Washington, D.C. And as a Delta, I'm so proud to be in this season of leadership. I have to tell you that it is overwhelming. We know what the mission is. Our people have to be navigated through a very tumultuous time, and we have to lead the resistance. We have to educate our communities, and there is an intersection of issues that we are confronting because it's a real onslaught, whether it's the purging of the federal enterprise where 1 in 5 members or employees were people of African descent, or it is dealing with the deconstruction of the Department of Education, an agency that our communities across this nation have relied on to deliver on the promise of a quality education for our children and continuing education for those who are on Pell Grants and are trying to climb the ladder of success. This season of leadership is about resisting the pressures that are being placed on so many institutions across our nation to turn its back on the legacy of inclusion, of diversity and equity, and close those doors of opportunity and erect obstacles to our people's success. So I am excited, quite frankly, about this challenge. I think I was born for this season.
All right.
Certainly, when I look at the fact that we have the largest Congressional Black Caucus in the history of the United States Congress, 4 members of the CBC sit in the United States Senate, and 57 of us are in the House of Representatives. We serve on every committee of jurisdiction. Yes. And so we know that Project 2025 is in full effect, because we're hearing it, we're seeing it, and we're ready to counteract it with our legislative priorities, with our prowess in terms of policy and policy analysis. And members are fully engaged in making sure that communities across this nation are prepared to stand up for their rights in this moment. And it's a challenging time, but it's a time of opportunity.
It is a very challenging time, but I am happy to hear what you were saying about being born for this, because you all are on the front lines, and I cannot tell you how much we appreciate it. I was happy to be in the number to see all of you sworn in at the ceremonial swearing in for the Congressional Black Caucus, and we're certainly proud. We were certainly proud to see you sworn in as the chair.
Well, thank you so much, Madam President.
As I mentioned, we've just concluded the 36th annual Delta Days at the nation's capital. We've had productive policy and training sessions featuring coalition partners, advocates, and of course, members of the Congressional Black Caucus. But as we know, Delta Sigma Theta focuses on social action year-round. Delta Sigma Theta and the CBC have long aligned on many key issues, from voting rights to economic justice and education. As we look ahead to 2026, what are some of the top legislative priorities the CBC is focused on that directly impact the communities we serve?
Well, one of the number one things is electing Hakeem Jeffries to be Speaker of the House, an opportunity to regain control of the House of Representatives, an opportunity for us to once again peel back and roll back the things that this administration is attempting to do, to literally tear down our democracy, our rule of law, the gains that we've had from a constitutional and freedom standpoint. We're not going to let this happen. As I mentioned before, we have our 3 C's. We're going to use the Congress, we use the courts, we use community. We're going to work together. We're going to push back in every way. And as I often say, when we don't have the votes, we still have our voice. Mm-hmm. Delta Sigma Theta has been a part of that powerful voice in our community. And we will be reaching out, as we have in the past, and you've always answered the bell, to be a part of that coalition of pushing back and being ready to fix all that this administration's attempting to break. We're meeting them head on. We're winning in the courts, and we're winning in the court of public opinion. Now we've got to win legislatively. Now we've got to win at the ballot box. Because when we vote, we win. Delta Sigma Theta has played an incredible role. I know in my home state of Louisiana, there's not an election that happens that Delta Sigma Theta is not either holding forums, standing on street corners, holding signs, reminding people, not for a candidate, but for the cause. Mm-hmm. Not being politically partisan, but recognizing and making sure people know the importance of exercising that ever powerful right to vote. So 2026 is going to be a pivotal time for us to prepare to take back the House, take back the Senate, and to start gearing back to take back the presidency, to make sure that we are fighting not for politics, but for people. Fighting for policy that will positively impact all people, Republicans, Democrats, Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, because we don't have the luxury of being against each other. And some people would rather divide and conquer and see us in some weird version of Hunger Games, where we're taking away food from children, denying our senior citizens access to Social Security or Medicaid or Medicare. We're not going to let it happen. We're going to be ever present. We're going to continue to fight. We're going to push for those policies that matter to the American people, and we're going to win.
We have to. Our communities are depending upon us. And I love those 3 C's in terms of the Congress, the courts, and community. And that truly is our opportunity, to partner to make sure that we are focusing on the issues that impact our communities.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Delta Sigma Theta has been on the front line of voting rights advocacy for over a century. With continued attacks on access to the ballot box, what efforts are underway in Congress to protect and expand voting rights? And how can advocacy organizations like Delta support these efforts?
Well, of course, we've always been on the front lines with the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. That is still our mandate. The Freedom to Vote Act, those are our mandates as well. So that has never changed because we know that Delta Sigma Theta sorority and all the organizations, African American organizations, communities of color have always made sure that that is our mandate, to make sure that we have access to the ballot box. And I will tell you, in particular, I know that I'm leading a piece of legislation right now, which is the Equitable and Efficient Operation of Polling Places Act, simply based upon what has happened to us in Georgia. Everyone has seen all across the country what happened with our elections when we had people standing outside, didn't have access to water, didn't have access to anything to eat, snacks, in the sun for hours and hours and hours. And so putting forth legislation that really helps to make sure that at all of the polling stations, people have equipment that's efficient, that actually takes their votes. You make sure that they are monitoring the votes as well and that their vote actually counts, but also making sure there are enough people there, employees or volunteers that are actually there manning the polling stations to make sure that people are effectively able to vote. And so these are really critical pieces of legislation. And we know that as Troy said, when we vote, we win. That is the reason why they're trying to disenfranchise our ability to vote, because we know that we have the power. We know that we have over and over again shown to be a very powerhouse in electing our elected officials. And that's the reason why they over and over again try to disenfranchise our vote, as we've seen in Georgia over and over again. I've been gerrymandered 3 times for that very reason.
And you keep winning.
And I keep winning with the help of D4, with the help of Delta Sigma Theta sorority, with the help of D9, because there is strength in numbers. We know who we are. We have the power, the ability, and the agility to make sure that every vote counts. And that is a priority for the Congressional Black Caucus. It always will be a priority because we know without the vote, we wouldn't even be here to represent our communities.
And I know that that's long been a priority, and that's just another place of alignment for us, because one of our legislative priorities, one of our issue priorities is around voting rights. That's the one actually is at the top of our list as well. And I'm so excited to hear about the other bill that you're introducing because, as you know, Delta Sigma Theta actually entered as a co-plaintiff in voting rights, in a voting rights trial in the state of Georgia to combat SB 202. And that we know is still winding its way into in the courts. We've just had some wins in the voting rights case that we entered in as a co-plaintiff with LDF in Texas to combat SB 1. But to have to combat the state after state after state, these federal pieces of legislation are absolutely so critical, not only to our communities, but as you talked about, to all communities, to be able to exercise what should be an absolutely fundamental right.
It's our North Star, President.
Yes.
Without the franchise, our citizenship will always be in question in the United States of America. And so, people bled, lost their lives. We recognize we owe them a debt to make sure that not only are we paying it back, but that we're paying it forward for future generations.
That's right.
We have to make sure that we get the voting system in the United States of America right, so that future generations will come into full citizenship, will govern themselves accordingly. This is a democracy of the people, for the people, and by the people. And we're all part of the people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, as we close this discussion, I'd like to ask each of you, what is your call to action, and how can organizations like Delta Sigma Theta continue to be a force for change and help ensure that these critical policy issues remain at the forefront? Madam Chair, I will start with you.
You mentioned the fact that I do a lot of work in the technology space, and what we recognize is that communications have migrated a lot to the social media platforms in the United States of America, and oftentimes our people are consuming erroneous information. Call to action is fact check, folks. Before we go down the line of believing the lies, the misconceptions, the propaganda that our adversaries are feeding us, let us do a deeper dive. Let us connect with our own history and put things into context so that we are armed with the information we need to be accurate in the work that we have to do for future generations. We cannot allow the confusion that comes from misinformation to suppress our engagement with the society that we live in. And that's part of voter suppression. So part of what I would say is a call to action for all of us is education. Our young people, while books are being banned, while content is being censored, our young people still need to learn about the triumphs of our people and what it took to get us to where we are and what it will take for future generations to be able to go on to do extraordinary things as a result of us holding the line and pressing forward and advancing.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. And what about you, Congressman?
So I would pivot to my third C.
Yes.
Community, elongated communication. Because we cannot idly sit by and give the other side a pass. We have to take to social media.
Yes, indeed.
We have to combat the untruths with truths. Tying into my illustrious chair, fact check. Defend your people, defend your party, defend your policies. Utilize your voice. Don't let the members of the Republican Party get a pass. Challenge them on these policies. The community needs to engage. The call to action is we all have a role to play.
Right, we do.
When we think about the protection of our democracy, the democracy and the framers of the Constitution set forth, even though we weren't a part of that discussion, we have made ourselves a part of that discussion through the various amendments that have perfected or attempted to perfect to make a more perfect union.
Yes.
That we are now very much a part of. And guess what? We ain't going back.
We're
We're not letting anybody take it away from us. But if we don't participate,
That's right.
it can happen.
We can
That's
wake
right.
up and there will be
In 1933, Hitler took over, and inside of less than 3 months, he turned Nazi Germany upside down. This will not be our Nazi Germany. We're not going to let that happen. But it's not going to be undone accidentally. It's going to be done very deliberately. So the call to action is everyone out there, write a letter, make a phone call, peacefully show up at an office _ peacefully. Send a blue sky, an Instagram. Talk about it in your churches. Talk about it in your sororities, your fraternities. Talk about it in all of your social, professional groups. Because with our unified voice, we can shame them into doing the right thing. And while we're shaming them into doing the right thing, we will shame those who didn't vote to get out and vote. Because when you don't vote, you just voted for the absolute worst person on the ballot. Call to action,
What does Batman?
participation. Some people say woke is a bad word. Well, the opposite of woke is to be asleep.
Be asleep.
And we're not going to sleep.
And we can't sleep.
We're not going to go to
Not
sleep
at all.
because when you're asleep, you're not conscious.
Right.
You don't know what people are doing to you. No, our eyes are wide open. And we're going to push back, and we're going to do it with every tool that we have to make sure that we're going to win in the ballot box, and we're going to demand that policies recognize the potpourri of all that we are.
So, thank you so much. Great calls to action so far, not only about what you all are doing, but what we need to be doing. So, Congresswoman McBath, please add yours.
Well, I just want to say, what my two colleagues have said, it cannot be understated. But what I do want people to understand is that they have power.
That's right.
They have power. We have power. Not only power at the ballot box, but you have the ability to take your power back by being invested as stakeholders in whatever shape or form that you can. If you can write a letter, write a letter. If you can show up at a district office when we are out of session and we are in the districts, go to the Republicans' offices. They need to hear from you. You need to be demanding that they speak with you. We have power. We need to exercise our power. We are all stakeholders. People ask me all the time, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I say, we legislatively are using every tool that's been given to us. The courts are acting as the checks and balance on the power that this administration thinks that it has. So they're doing what they need to do. The groups on the ground, labor, all of the organizations are doing everything that they can to advocate. But we need everyday citizens to understand they have the power. They are the stakeholders. They are the people. This is a constitution. This is a governing for the people, made by the people. And they need to understand the power that they have, not to stand on the sidelines and wait for Congress to do it. Not to stand on the sidelines and wait for the courts to do it. Not to stand on the sidelines and wait for labor to do it. Be out in the streets, take their power back, voice their concerns, and demand accountability.
Wow. We definitely have a lot to do, but you have given us a roadmap. In addition to what we heard at Delta Days all this weekend, this really calls down the things we know we need to do. So I want to take the opportunity to thank each of you, Congresswoman Clark, Congressman Carter, Congresswoman McBath. I thank you on behalf of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated for your leadership, your advocacy, and your commitment to uplifting our communities. Delta Sigma Theta will continue to stand in the gap, raising our voices and pushing for policies that protect and empower Black communities. We look forward to working with the CBC to drive meaningful change in the months and years ahead. Thank you again for joining us, and thank you for being part of this very important conversation.
Thank you, Madam President, for your incredible leadership.
Thank you.
We're honored to be with you today. Carry on the good work.
The honor is all mine.
Forward with
Appreciate
fortitude.
you. Forward with fortitude.
Fortitude.
Yes, thank you. Fortitude Speaks. Next time on Fortitude Speaks.
Co-chair of the National Communications and Public Relations Committee, Sor Desiree Faith Morris sits down with International President Elsie Cooke-Holmes.